Good morning. I'm Vicki Cessna, Executive Director for the Diocese of Kalamazoo. Welcome to those who are joining us today, our member of the media who are with us here at our Diocesan Pastoral Center, as well as those viewers who are joining us through this live stream. Today, the Michigan Department of Attorney General released its report on the Diocese of Kalamazoo's handling of clergy sexual abuse cases. An investigation that was launched in September of 2018 under then Attorney General Bill Schuette and continued under the current Attorney General Dana Nessel. Today's report is the third of 7 diocesan reports that are expected from the Attorney General's office. The report on the Diocese of Marquette was released in October 27, 2022, and the report on the Diocese of Gaylord was released this past January 8, 2024. The Attorney General states in her report that the allegations are summarized here, and their inclusion does not reflect a determination by the department that the allegations are credible or otherwise substantiated, nor indicative of a crime. The allegations included in the report include incidents involving both children and adults. The Diocese of Kalamazoo takes very seriously the protection of its children and youth and all people. As such, last month on April 18th, we announced updates to our child and youth protection policies. One of those significant updates included the publication of a list of individuals who, in the judgment of the Diocese of Kalamazoo, have been credibly accused of actions that disqualify and prohibit them from working or volunteering with children or youth. This list and all our materials and resources related to today's announcement and all child protection policies may be found on our diocesan website. In just a few moments, I will invite Bishop Edward Losey to offer his remarks. Following Bishop Losey's remarks, we will have a brief time for questions. Just a few biographical notes on Bishop Losey. It was actually almost a year ago, tomorrow, May 23rd, when Pope Francis announced the appointment of Bishop Losey as the 5th bishop for the Diocese of Kalamazoo. Bishop Losey was ordained our bishop on July 25th and has served as bishop of the diocese for these past 10 months. As a reminder, the Diocese of Kalamazoo consists of 59 Catholic parishes and missions, as well as 21 Catholic schools within the 9 counties of Southwest Michigan. Bishop Losey has been a priest for 35 years and was ordained for the Diocese of Erie, where he served up until his ordination last July. He earned his doctorate in canon law and also has an extensive background in child and youth protection, having led that office for the Diocese of Erie. It is my honor now to welcome Bishop Losey to the podium. Thank you.
Thank you, Vicki, for your introduction, and thank you to everyone who's here this morning. And my greetings to everyone watching via live stream, especially to the people of the Diocese of Kalamazoo. Brothers and sisters, today we are confronted with a disturbing truth. The sexual abuse of minors by priests here in the 9 counties of the Diocese of Kalamazoo is an historic reality. It is tragic, appalling, and inexcusable. No one knows this better than you who are the victim survivors of that abuse. You were entrusted to our care, and we failed to protect you. There is no other way to put it. For that failure, I am deeply sorry. We are committed to meeting this disturbing reality head on. We cannot be afraid of the truth. The ugliness detailed in the Attorney General's report is not the whole of who we are, but it is a part. and we must acknowledge that fact and own it so that it does not happen again. I am grateful to be able to say that there is no priest of the Diocese of Kalamazoo active in ministry with a credible allegation against him concerning the sexual abuse of a minor. It is difficult to read the allegations indicated in the Attorney General's report. Although the report clearly states that it makes no determination as to whether or not the allegations are true, we realize, sadly, that many of them are true. The priests who are credibly accused left behind them a wake of human suffering and pain that quite simply does not go away. The suffering inflicted by these priests lasts a lifetime, and that suffering affects us all as the body of Christ. To you who suffered abuse at their hands, I know that we will never be able to make you whole again. Only the Lord Jesus can do that. But we are committed to doing what we can. We have a crisis hotline operated by Catholic Charities, available for anyone affected by abuse. Trained professionals are available to help at any time now or in the future. I also want to let anyone affected by childhood trauma of any type know that help is available through the Trauma Recovery Program sponsored by the diocese. It is free of charge. Details on both the crisis hotline and the Trauma Recovery Program are available on the diocesan website. I renew my own commitment to meet with any individual who so desires and who suffered abuse at the hands of the Church, and to assure those who have been harmed by the actions of those ministering here in the Diocese of Kalamazoo that we will cover the costs for professional counseling or therapy. Our policies for protecting children and youth are some of the best that are out there, but that does not erase what happened in the past. We continue to strengthen our efforts to protect children and youth and to educate people to recognize signs of behavior that puts youth at risk. Later this summer, we will unveil an updated diocesan policy for the protection of children and youth. Once again, I need to reiterate that every instance of the abuse of minors, sexual or other, should be reported to the appropriate law enforcement agencies. And the Attorney General's tip line is on our website. Many of you are wondering what exactly is in the Attorney General's report for the Diocese of Kalamazoo. I'll take a few moments to point out what I take to be some of the key points. I would like to reiterate that the allegations in the report do not reflect a determination by the Attorney General's office that they are credible or otherwise substantiated or indicative of a crime. I am going to refer you to the report itself for the specific details of individual cases. With that being said, and taking into account the help provided by the Diocesan Review Board over the years to determine which allegations are credible and which are not, this is the historical situation in the Diocese of Kalamazoo as best as we are able to understand it. First, I will comment on the number of alleged perpetrators of abuse. The report names a total of 19 priests, 12 of whom are priests for the Diocese of Kalamazoo, and 7 are priests from other dioceses or religious orders who ministered here. Of these 19 priests, 12 have allegations of sexual misconduct concerning only minors, 5 have allegations concerning only adults, and 2 have allegations concerning both. So of those accused of abusing minors, 12 only minors, plus 2 others who were in both categories, 14 total. Of those 10 are alleged to have done so within the 9 counties of the Diocese of Kalamazoo, and the remaining 4 are alleged to have done so elsewhere. As best as we are able to understand, we believe that allegations against 10 of these 14 priests are credible. The review board was unable to determine the credibility of the allegations against Father Carl Peltz, as well as those against Father Gary Piment and Father David Otto, when those allegations were brought forward, turned over to authorities, and analyzed by the review board. If anyone has any additional information regarding those or any other of the allegations in the Attorney General's report, we would welcome it. In at least some cases, there is evidence that suggests that warning signs were either unrecognized or unheeded. I have no intention to attempt to defend those decisions. At the same time, I would be remiss if I did not mention the times in the report where church officials did try to act responsibly and do the right thing, even if it wasn't always well received. Now I will comment on the total number of allegations. There are 28 allegations of sexual misconduct with minors. 28. At this time, we estimate that as many as 23 of those could be credible. Now, not all of those occurred here in the Diocese of Kalamazoo. 24 of the 28 incidences are alleged to have occurred here in the diocese, and of those, we estimate that as many as 19 of those could be credible. There are 24 allegations of misconduct with adults, 22 of which are alleged to have occurred within the diocese. We estimate that potentially all 24 of those could be credible. Again, I wish to confirm that no priest identified in the Attorney General's report is currently in active ministry. I also want to highlight that the majority of allegations occurred decades ago, in fact, prior to the year 2000. We have made significant strides in safeguarding our children and providing safe environments. Those efforts, which include the 19,000 employees and volunteers who have been background checked and undergone training for recognizing sexual predatory behavior, those efforts are having results. We need to recognize that the harm inflicted by the sexual misconduct of priests, and especially the abuse of minors, affects not only the victim survivors, but also their families, and in truth, the entire community of believers. It affects those who work with survivors, trying to provide some measure of healing, and it has taken a toll on those priests themselves who have never abused anyone and who have remained faithful to their calling. As a diocese, we must minister to all, to all of these people. But I want to be clear, none hold a greater importance for us than the victim survivors themselves. To the Catholic people of the 9 counties of the Diocese of Kalamazoo, I know how deeply the clergy sexual abuse crisis has shaken your faith. Betrayal by the people we were taught to trust and respect has caused a deep wound in our communities. The Psalms tell us that it is better to trust in the Lord than to trust in men, and we see how true this is. For any way in which we have failed you, the faithful who come to Mass Sunday after Sunday, I am deeply sorry. Permit me a few words in Spanish. También quiero dirigirme a aquellos de ustedes cuya lengua materna es el español. Ustedes también son hijos e hijas de esta diócesis. Y reconozco que el abuso infantil no conoce fronteras sociales o culturales. Oro por todos los que han sufrido abuso en su infancia. Lamento profundamente cualquier forma en que la acción o inacción de la Iglesia haya podido contribuir a ello. Quienes necesiten de alguna ayuda en esta área pueden acceder al programa de recuperación de trauma ofrecido totalmente gratis por la diócesis. De igual modo, el texto que me charlo hoy, así como información sobre el programa de recuperación de trauma, estará disponible en español en la página web de la diócesis. We will be announcing a Mass of Reparation and Atonement at the Cathedral, which I will celebrate. The date is not yet set. And I will ask the parishes to do the same. In addition, we are planning to hold several listening sessions throughout the diocese. As your bishop, I need to hear from you. Lastly, I would like to address the priests themselves. To you who have remained faithful and who continue to minister here in this diocese, you too have been deeply affected by the abuse perpetrated by your fellow priests. Most people will never see the suffering you bear within your hearts because of that betrayal. But I need you to know that I do. I know firsthand the pain of seeing the image of the church we so deeply love tarnished by those who have betrayed their priestly vocation and by the decisions or inaction of those in positions of leadership. For any way in which we have failed you, my brother priests, I am deeply sorry. I urge you as a fellow priest to receive this report with open hearts. Let it be a wake-up call for us. As priests, we need to commit ourselves to renewal and sanctification, to being priests according to the heart of Christ. I am quite convinced that the only path forward for us is the path of integrity. Let it begin with us. This report compels us all to come to terms with our past and to admit our failings, but it does not define our future. Together we will work for that day when children everywhere across the whole of society are safe and protected. Aided by the prayers of the Blessed Virgin Mary, Mother of Christ and Mother of the Church, we entrust our efforts to our Lord Jesus Christ, who is the font of all healing and grace. Thank you all for your attention, and I will now take any questions or comments.
Just have a point of clarification. The report names 19 priests, which you talked about,
Yeah.
and then there was another set of numbers, 28 allegations of sexual misconduct. What was
Yeah.
the difference between those?
Well, the first part I'm commenting on, let me get rid of some of this stuff here. First part I'm commenting on the number of perpetrators.
Mm-hmm.
which is 19. Then the second set of statistics were the number of allegations. So you could have one perpetrator who has 4 or 5 allegations.
Okay.
That's why the numbers don't match.
Sure.
There are more allegations than there are perpetrators. In the report in total, if my math is correct, there are 52 total allegations, but only 19 priests.
You've said that there's no priest in the diocese that has, no active priest that has allegations against minors. What about adults?
No one that's in this report
Is active?
is active in any capacity at
And
all.
You've talked a lot about protections for minors. Is something being done to prevent grooming of adults, or is there any protections for adults?
Well, that would be part of the ongoing formation of priests, and we will certainly be addressing those matters. One of the, as painful as some of these reports are to receive, they're a reality check. We have work to do in terms of, it's a never-ending process of making sure that we are doing the best ministry we can, protecting people in the best way that we can, fulfilling our obligations with integrity.
And there are more names on the AG's list than what you released. What's the difference?
You mean what we released last month?
Yes.
Yes.
Were there names you didn't know about, or why do they have more names than you had?
Well, our list that we released a month ago has some very clear parameters on it. First of all, it deals only with conduct concerning minors. So those in this report that deal with adults, they would not have been included in that list. The list that we put out also says what we understand to be credible allegations. There are some here where we're not able at this point to understand whether to make a determination. The review board said it didn't have enough information to determine whether or not those were credible, even if they deal with a minor. That's why if anyone has additional information to shed light on those cases, we would welcome it. If that additional information enables us to determine credibility, then they'll go on the list. All of the people in the Attorney General's report are now on that website. Is that live now?
It will be live shortly.
Yeah. So we wanted to make sure that all the people in the Attorney General's list are on the exact same web page. They may or may not fit the parameters of that other list. The important thing to us is that their names are on that page.
In a similar vein, is there anything that surprised you when you looked at the Attorney General's report?
It's all new to me because I've only been here 10 months, okay? I've dealt with these kind of things before, so in terms of that, no, nothing was really surprising. All these allegations are things that have been looked into by the diocese, so I don't think there was anything, to my awareness, that we weren't aware of ahead of time in terms of like, wow, that name came out of the blue, we didn't know anything about that. I don't think that happened.
You say in some of the allegations, you listed one where there's like 28 allegations, and the church believes that 23 of them are credible. What were some of the differentiating factors for you to say these ones seem credible versus these ones?
Well, those were determinations by the review board going back quite a number of years. And the law enforcement, the reports we got from law enforcement, and all the information that the review board had in front of them. You know, sometimes you have the stuff here, but there's just not enough information to say one way or the other. It could have, it could. So those are the 5 allegations concerning, if my numbers are correct, 5 allegations concerning 4 priests, where the review boards who looked over this said, we don't have enough information here.
You mentioned last time we spoke that you were in the process of kind of completing the sweeping reform when it came to child abuse prevention policies. Just curious if this report will do anything to influence that, or you've already been well into the process. It was going to finish sometime in the summer, and where things stand with that, I guess. Too.
Well, we just had a meeting yesterday, actually, that group working on this. Does this report influence that? I don't think it could help but do that. But there are a lot of other reports out there from other dioceses as well, and so many of the commonalities between these reports. Like, for example, you said, did anything surprise us? Well, I went through the Pennsylvania grand jury report, and that was pretty comprehensive, in terms of just its disclosure on activities and human nature and sinful things. So all of these reports are informing our revision. And this one will have its own contribution, I'm sure.
Just following up on my last question, when you kind of talked about there were certain allegations that seemed more credible than others. Being that none of the priests are in ministry right now, I guess, is it fair to take those priests out of ministry if they weren't deemed in that pool of the allegations being credible?
I will tell you that the question you are asking is asked by quite a number of people. I have heard this question before. These people, as far as I know, are all deceased. So at that point, the question is moot. I can't provide a definitive answer to your question because that is a highly debated point. I will say, when push comes to shove, we're going to side with protecting kids.
We kind of talked about this last time too, but now that we have this report, I want to revisit this. How would you define public perception of the Catholic Church, and how reports like these attempt to repair that perception?
There is no question that the level of moral credibility has been severely weakened in the last 20 plus years. These kind of reports could very easily weaken it further. I recognize that. But at the same time, we have to deal with reality as it's presented, not as I would perhaps like to paint it. I can't look at life through rose-colored glasses. This is the truth. We have to confront the truth head on. There is no other path forward other than the path of integrity, and that means confronting the reality of who we are, good and bad, truthfully, honestly, addressing what needs to be addressed, giving all of it to the Lord, and forging a path forward that's built in transparency and integrity. And the Lord said, the truth will set you free. Not a reality, or not an illusion, not something else, the truth. We cannot be afraid of the truth.
One more for me. You said most of the allegations of abuse came from before 2000.
Yeah.
Of the 19 priests who are facing accusations, how many of them were potentially committed their act before they came here, and why might that not have shown up on a background check? Or is that even
Well, before 2000, there really, as far as I know, there really weren't background checks.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have shown up. That being said, it doesn't mean that there weren't indications there that perhaps should have been paid attention to. Background checks are a relatively recent thing, and I will say they are not foolproof. you know. Just because someone passes the driver's license test and gets the license doesn't mean that they're not going to go out and drive recklessly, you know. So they are an important tool, and we certainly intend to use them as best we can. But that has to be partnered with lots of other things, you know. It's not just, so that's one piece of a big toolbox of trying to vet and assure that the people ministering to our kids are safe.
Do you know about when the background checks started? I know they weren't before 2000, but.
No, off the top of my head, I can't tell you definitively, but it would have been after 2002, probably sometime around 2005, 4, 5, sometime around then. I mean, they're widespread now. I mean, public schools, private schools, practically everybody that works with kids has to go through background checks now. And that's a good thing.
Hi, Bishop. One of our submitted questions from Megan Bunchman at WWMT-TV. Why did the diocese hold a last-minute conference just before the AG release conference at 11:30 today?
Well, we actually were planning to go earlier, but the report was delayed coming out. And they have one at 11:30, so we had to try to fit ours in.
Thank you.
It's not an ideal way to do it, but yeah. And of course, we're available later. Anything else? Okay, well, I want to thank all of you for being here. I want to thank the people of the diocese, and we are relying on everyone's prayers. This is dealing with child abuse especially. It's everywhere in our society. We have got to be willing to talk about it, to address it, to acknowledge it, and bring it into the light if we're going to make any progress at eradicating it. So, thank you for being here, and like I said, we commend everything to the prayers of Our Lady and through Christ, who is the font of all healing. Thank you.